Okay, let's talk about something Hong Kong really loves, seafood. It's a huge part of our culinary identity, right? But behind every amazing seafood dinner, there's a hidden story. A story about the journey from the farm to our plates, and a new global trend that's changing absolutely everything. So what's really going on behind the scenes? Let's dive in. So, just how much seafood are we talking about? Well, get ready for this number. 66 kilograms. That's how much the average person in Hong Kong eats every single year. To put that in perspective, it makes us the fifth largest consumer per person in the entire world. Wow. And look, that's a massive part of our culture, but with that deep love for seafood comes a pretty big responsibility. It really forces us to ask a tough but important question. What does all this incredible demand actually mean for the millions of aquatic animals we raise and eat every year? Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is about being nice to fish. And yeah, that's part of it. But the story is so much bigger and honestly, way more surprising. It turns out that focusing on aquatic animal welfare isn't just a cost. It creates some amazing benefits for pretty much everyone, from the farmers to the environment and right down to us. Yeah, this isn't about charity. High welfare farming is just smart business. I mean, think about it. When you reduce stress and disease, more fish survive. That's less waste, fewer losses, plus a less stressed fish literally means better quality meat. It's a direct path to higher profits and a better product for you and me. And this focus on well-being, well, it has this incredible ripple effect on the environment. A high welfare farm is just a cleaner farm, period. You get better water management, less crowding, and all that means way less pollution spilling into our oceans. That helps protect wild fish from disease and contamination. It's a win for the whole ecosystem. And maybe the biggest win of all is the one that lands right on our dinner plates. A healthier fish has a stronger immune system, right? So guess what it doesn't need as much of? Antibiotics. We're talking about a massive reduction in the medication that gets into our food supply. And that is a huge deal for public health in the fight against antibiotic resistance. Okay, so we've talked about why this matters, but what does welfare even mean for a fish? How on earth do you measure if a fish is, doing okay? Well, it turns out scientists and farmers have a really solid framework to figure that out. It's called the 5 domains model, and it's basically the international gold standard. You can think of it like a holistic checklist. It covers the basics, nutrition, their environment, health, and how they behave. But here's the crucial part. Those first 4 domains all add up to the 5th one, the animal's mental state. See, the goal isn't just to make sure they're not suffering. The goal is to provide a good life. And just so we're clear, this isn't guesswork or just feelings. This framework is built on a mountain of solid science. Research shows fish have pain receptors, a lot like mammals do. When they get stressed, their bodies produce cortisol, the exact same stress hormone we have. They'll even actively seek out pain relief when they're hurt. The scientific evidence is pretty undeniable. All right, so we've got the why and the what. Let's get to the how. What does one of these high welfare farms actually look like in the real world? And how different is it really? Well, the difference is pretty much night and day. On one side, you have that high-stress environment. Way too crowded, totally barren tanks with nowhere to hide, and, surprise, surprise, high rates of disease. But on the other side, you see the high welfare approach. The density is right for the species, the tanks have places to hide and explore, what they call an enriched environment. The whole mindset shifts from just treating sickness to preventing it in the first place. It's about thriving, not just surviving. And when you start talking about environmental enrichment, you get into some really cool and kind of surprising territory. Get this. Studies have actually shown that playing low-frequency rhythmic sounds, yeah, we're talking classical music, can genuinely reduce stress and even help fish grow better. How wild is that? It just goes to show a good environment is way more than just clean water. And this whole idea of welfare, it doesn't just stop once the fish is fully grown. The end of its life is just as important. That's where humane slaughter comes in. The principle is super simple. The animal has to be made unconscious before the slaughter process begins to prevent any pain or distress. And just like everything else we've talked about, this final step of care also measurably improves the quality of the meat. Okay, time to bust a big myth, one that's super common here in Hong Kong. We're taught to believe that seeing a fish swimming around in a tank means it's the absolute best, the freshest you can get, right? Well, science tells a different story. All that stress from being transported and stuck in a crowded tank can flood the fish's muscles with lactic acid, which can make the meat tough and affect a flavor. A lot of the time, a fish that was humanely handled and chilled right away is actually the superior choice. And I want to be really clear here. This isn't some niche, fringe idea happening on a few farms. This is a global movement, and it is picking up speed fast. It's quickly becoming the new standard for what a modern, competitive, and sustainable seafood industry looks like.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The proof is in the results. Just look at two of the biggest players in salmon. In Norway, focusing on welfare allowed them to slash their antibiotic use by an incredible 99% in just 10 years. In Scotland, they built a premium brand around welfare and sustainability, and their exports shot up by 36% in a single year. The numbers really speak for themselves.
And you can literally see this movement accelerating. Look at the timeline. It took over a decade to get from that first meeting in China to official guidelines in Taiwan, but then, boom! In just the last few years, you have the UK legally recognizing fish as sentient beings and Singapore launching a massive plan for sustainable aquaculture. The momentum, especially here in Asia, is just impossible to ignore. So who's driving all this change? It's really a team effort. Consumers, like us, are a huge piece of the puzzle. I mean, when almost 2/3 of young people say they are willing to pay more for sustainable products, the industry has no choice but to listen and adapt. And of course, governments play a key role in helping everyone make that transition with new standards and support. It all works together.
So all of this brings us right back to the choices we make every single day. The global seafood industry is at a major turning point, driven by science, by economics, and by a growing awareness of our impact. So the next time you're at the market or looking at a menu, what are you going to be looking for? The power to shape the future of seafood is right there, on your plate.